Today is Monday, December 16th, 2024. This is episode 159 of The Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And normally coming out of Philly, but coming out of New York City today, it's your girl Tech Life Stuff.
Now, y'all might notice that we don't have a third with us. Brother Tech got hemmed up at, I believe he said, the dealership at the last minute. So for anybody who was listening last week, we're not going to talk about what's going on because we don't know who's listening to the show, but he's at the dealership. We'll just leave it at that and trying to get business taken care of. But there is a lot of tech news. Before we get to it, I do want to give a shout out to James Thompson. This is another one of our patrons. And James Thompson, I don't know that he's actually been able to attend a live stream of the show, but he watches every single week, goes back over to Patreon and leaves comments about what he thought about the show. So James, we see you leaving the comments, even though we don't see you live. So just wanted to give you a shout out and let you know that we appreciate you hanging out with us after the fact, after we do the recording of the show. And for anyone else who would like to support the show in the way that James does, you can do so by becoming a patron by heading over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, where we've got multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party. This is a podcast, but it is also a live stream that we record live and allow our patrons to come and hang out with us. So once again, if you would like to support the show in that way, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. So with that being said, Steph, this first story is a bit of a warning. The FBI warns iPhone and Android users that they should be using something like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Signal or something that is end-to-end encrypted. They basically are saying that when it comes to RCS does not have built-in encryption. So that's not the thing. When it comes to iMessage is only end-to-end encrypted for iPhone users. When you send a message to someone who's not on an iPhone, it's either going to send it via RCS or it's going to send it as an SMS MMS, which is not encrypted. And the same goes for Android users. If you are using Google Messages via RCS, it'll be encrypted because Google does some extra stuff. But as I said, RCS itself does not have end-to-end encryption. So the FBI is warning this because basically, what they are saying is that China is messing around and doing some stuff. And if you want your communications to be secure and you do not want a state that we had, we're not allies with, we're not at war with, or anything like that with China, but we are not allies. It's like we are, adversarial, to the nth degree. If you do not want, the state of China getting access to your stuff, you might want to use a more secure messaging platform.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate the warning and them, trying to give us a heads up or whatever, but I feel like a lot of this may just be in service of the back door they've been trying to get from Apple, Google, and Meta since the very beginning, because the first half of the article you posted talks about the threat, China, yada yada yada, but then the whole sort of last 2/3 of it talks about the FBI's push for quote unquote responsibly managed encryption, where they want encryption, but only, until they need to get into your shit. So it's just like, I understand the rationale that they gave. I mean, they talk about terrorists and child sexual abuse and trafficking and drug dealing and all those other bad things that are facilitated. I get it. They are very much facilitated by the fact that these platforms exist and allow bad actors to communicate with the strictest privacy, with impunity, with all that good stuff, and it would help them out tremendously. Law enforcement, it would help them out tremendously to be able to access this stuff. However, it's such a catch-22. Maybe that's not the phrase, but we really are stuck between a rock and a hard place with this because, once, and the article even said a backdoor for one is a backdoor for
Hmm.
all, basically. And once you open that gate or open that Pandora's box, you're not putting that privacy genie back in the bottle. So, you know, I'm of a couple minds on this, but I think, I'm leaning majority to the idea of maintaining our privacy.
So there's to me, this is the government saying two things simultaneously, talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Right.
So the Salt Typhoon hack, that is a real thing. China's saying that it's not us. The FBI is saying it's absolutely them. Um, I'm probably going to trust the FBI on that. So from that standpoint, is like, we have a nation state that basically is backing this group that has put this stuff into our network, and they can get access to your unencrypted data. That is a
Hmm.
problem. So in order for that not to happen, you should be using things that have an encryption. So to be clear, if you are an Android user and you're talking to another Android user and you're using Google Messages, that is absolutely an encrypted because Google makes it so. If you're an iPhone user, and you can only talk to other iPhone users or iPad users or basically someone who's inside of the Apple ecosystem with iMessage, that's absolutely end-to-end encrypted. Where those two platforms break down is when they talk to each other, whether it be over RCS or whether it be over MMS, SMS. That is not encrypted, and you would be subject to the findings of what the Salt Typhoon hackers have been able to do. The other part of that is that, well, in order for that not to happen, you should use a really, really good end-to-end encrypted messaging platform. Signal, Facebook Messenger is actually really good at this. WhatsApp is actually
Right.
really good at this.
Right.
But here's the other part. But they're so good that when we want to get into your stuff, we can't. So
We can't
now
get
we need
into
to
it.
figure out how we
Exactly.
can do it. And that's just the thing. It's like, well, if you make it secure, then the point is so that no one can get into it,
Right. You
including
either
the
want
government.
you either want the security or you don't. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. And that's what it sounds like they're trying to do. And it's just like, nah, son, like you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's just the bottom line.
Now, here in the United States, WhatsApp is just not is nearly as a big thing as it is everywhere else. Here it has been, if you were Android up until relatively recently, you just used whatever default SMS app you had on your phone. If you were Verizon, you were using like Verizon Messages Plus, or you might, if you had a Samsung phone, you might use Samsung Messages or whatever. You just kind of use whatever was on your phone to send SMS and MMS. If you were an iPhone, of course, you had iMessage. So as long as you're talking to other iPhone users or other people in your in your ecosystem, you're using that. And WhatsApp just didn't take hold here. And I believe the biggest reason for that is because we've here in the United States for a very long time have just had unlimited messaging plans where you didn't pay for
Right.
individual messages. You just got a
Right.
phone plan and you could send as many as you want. That wasn't the case in Europe. That wasn't the case in in Asia. So if you had a messaging plan, you literally were paying individually for each SMS message or MMS message that you sent, and that's why an app like WhatsApp was able to take off because it says, well, we're not going to make you pay for anything. You always have data on your phone, so we'll just send the messages in an encrypted way
Right.
over data, and you never have to worry about paying those incremental charges for every time you send an SMS. So it was able to just grow significantly everywhere else, and it never really caught on here because everybody had
And you
SMS
have
and everybody had
and you can
iMessage.
send it over Wi-Fi, so you don't even need
Right.
you may not even have a cellular plan. You might just
Absolutely.
have a phone. And I think about like some African countries and stuff like that. You got a hold of a phone, and but you don't have cell service, and maybe the coverage is spotty or whatever, but you have a internet cafe that you can walk to and just use the Wi-Fi. You can use that to communicate with people over Wi-Fi. So I definitely see the the attractiveness of it for communities that don't have adequate cellular access, or again, like you said, unlimited data and different stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't. it almost doesn't make sense though that we don't use it like that here. I mean, I kind of get why, especially as an Apple user. I mean, I'm a blue bubble bully, as they say. So I get why, Apple users in particular hadn't really adopted it widely. But I'm still always very surprised that WhatsApp is not a bigger part of our communication strategy, I guess, in the United States.
Tyranny of the default. On an iPhone, you didn't have to go and install WhatsApp. It already had iMessage on it, and it simply just worked. And it worked
Yep.
really, really well. It worked
Hmm.
as well as WhatsApp did. So if everybody that you talk to, and this is where some of the bullying comes in, it's like, why don't you're messing up the vibe in the group chat. Can you just please get an iPhone? Just get an iPhone. It don't have to be a new one. Just get an iPhone. Just get one. Any iPhone will be better than that piece of trash Android device you're using. Now, I'm not saying you said that. I'm just saying that people who who are also self-described as blue bubble billies, would say things like that. So Apple kind of made it to where you really didn't need it. If you just get an iPhone, you don't have to worry about installing WhatsApp or something like that, this third-party application on your phone. What happened overseas, though, is that WhatsApp became so popular that the carriers say, well, wait a minute. It costs us less money if we don't have to support this SMS stuff. Let's just make WhatsApp be the default messaging application on our own phone. So you could literally go, depending on your carrier, buy a phone and it already has WhatsApp on it. And that's what you use because so many people use WhatsApp outside of this country, that it really is the default. It's like, I don't want to say it's a rounding error to SMS, but more people send messages via WhatsApp than I want to say all the rest of them combined. So, per day. So it is
Yeah.
a very, very big, very, very big platform. So I just want to put that public service announcement out there that there is some stuff going on with this Salt Typhoon hack, that if you are sending your stuff in clear text, if you're sending SMS and MMS, there's a very good a very good opportunity that someone is looking at that you didn't necessarily intend to look at. So you want to use something else. My gut tells me that most iPhone users are going to keep using iMessage. Most Android users are going to keep using Google Messages, and you may have a few additional people pick up WhatsApp. I will say that I believe that in the second half of the year, WhatsApp did like a bit of a marketing campaign. You started to see WhatsApp commercials here in the United States where I'd never seen them before. So
I
I
don't.
now see more people who have WhatsApp, but it's just a few more. It's not like everybody. I
Right,
definitely
right.
recognize all the iPhone users that have upgraded to 18.1 or 18.2 as far as iOS is concerned. And now RCS just is on their devices. I definitely recognize that. Every now and again, I'll see, oh, here's a new person that's on WhatsApp, maybe once a week or something like
It's
that.
interesting though that you know, like if you have to do it anyway, why not make it encrypted? Like the idea that Apple kind of finally sort of came around to that idea of using RCS. If you're going to do it, like why wouldn't you make sure that it was going to be end to end encrypted regardless? You know what I mean? Like the idea that interrupt, and I don't know if that is something that Apple could have done, or if
No.
the whoever does the standard for RCS needs to do.
So it's the GSMA that is responsible for the
Yeah,
spec. And in their spec, they did not have end-to-end encryption. So what Google did was, well, we can't, we really want everybody to use RCS, but we understand that it is ridiculously insecure. So what Google did was they actually run their own RCS servers. When you use Google Messages, your application, your messages aren't just going directly between your carrier and whomever else. They actually go through Google as well. So Google is able to do the encryption if you're using their client. Now, this only works for if you're Android, because there is no iPhone client for Google Messages, at least not yet.
right.
I don't imagine that Apple would ever do that unless the law told them they had to, and I don't think that that's something the law is even pressing for. So what has to happen is that the GSMA, they have to work with Google and Apple to figure out how to make the spec actually have end-to-end encryption built in it, because I can't blame Apple for this. Why would I use Google's version of something as compared to using the version that actually is the global standard?
Right.
Apple's not going to, just in the same way that, you know, Apple's never going to let Google data run through their servers. Why, Google's not going to do the same with them. So this is a GSMA thing. And it was, I believe, short-sighted. I mean, it's not like they just started working on RCS. It's been around for some time, but you would think that they would have, it's some time before now. I mean, we're all the way getting ready to enter into 2025. You would have think that they would have
Right.
thought about how are we going
And
to make
just
this end-to-end encrypted before now.
considered privacy. I know that well, it seems like though, you know, and I gotta give Apple credit for this because I mean, they seem like one of the few tech companies that was built from a privacy first perspective. Like
Mhm.
everybody else sort of has been doing things kind of after the fact, after something happens, playing catch up and things like that. But it doesn't make any sense that this stuff wasn't in place when you set these systems up. It just doesn't make any sense.
I would imagine that when we do get true end-to-end encryption via RCS, things just get better for everybody, because at that point I could see other platforms adopting RCS for inter-platform communication. What kind of stinks is that I can't use WhatsApp to talk to you on your iPhone. You have to have WhatsApp on your iPhone as I have to have it on my Android device. But it's based off your telephone number. So you would think that I would love to be able to just send a message to you directly without you having to have the same app installed. I think the promise of RCS, when we get to a point to where we actually have end-to-end encryption built into the spec from a GSMA standpoint, that may open it up to where now you'll see a WhatsApp Messenger, you'll see a Facebook Messenger, you'll see a Signal now allow communication to happen between disparate platforms, because you have a global standard that does support end-to-end encryption. I would imagine that a company like Signal is always going to say ours is better, so you can still use it if the other person is using Signal, but at least have the ability to send messages back and forth. Back in the day, I actually used to use Signal. The reason I stopped is because it functioned as my SMS app. If you had Signal, it would go secure. If you didn't have Signal, it would just send a regular SMS. They pulled that out. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see if they get back to that once RCS is secure. So just to put a cap on this, it's like the FBI is saying that folks is doing some stuff that your messages, if you're sending them over RCS, if you're sending them over MMS SMS, that it is not secure. And if you want it to be secure, you need to use an actual application that is secure, like WhatsApp, like Signal, like Facebook Messenger, or as we said, iMessage, with iPhone users, Google messages with Google users, with Android users. Steph, this next story that I wanted to talk about, this is something that I've been looking at since last week. There was an article in Engadget, and it showcased an ACLU white paper making the argument that police departments shouldn't allow officers to use AI to draft police reports. So there are a small but growing number of police departments, and it looks like the ACLU is focusing on ones in California, to where they
Right.
are using, they're actually using artificial intelligence from a company called Axon. The name of the software is called Draft One, and essentially what this software does is it takes information from your body camera, the recording, the transcription, and all of that, and it uses that to create your first draft of what a police report should be. And what I initially thought about is like, okay, well, I don't have a problem if it's taking the transcription, but that's not what the story is saying. What they're saying is that it's not just the transcription, it's using AI to actually start the creation of a police report. So that got me to thinking, it's like, I literally said to mine, I was like, I know you lying. It's like, I don't trust, I'm just going to say it like I feel it. I don't trust the police to create accurate police reports. I sure enough don't want to have to trust an AI that you cannot cross-examine to
Right.
start a police report. Now, what they're saying is that, well, this isn't the final report; it's just giving the start of it. And I
They're
actually
lying.
talked to, I've actually talked to folks that these reports could actually be better, because police officers, they have to rely on their memory as compared to relying on what's on their body cam footage. But my thought is that we have so many issues with AI getting stuff wrong. We have so many issues with, with facial recognition and stuff like that, thinking this person is that person and that person is this person. And I just don't trust it. I don't want a police report that is generated on me, whether it is for or against me, that is generated based off of what an algorithm says. And I believe that what they're using is Chat GPT, which has been trained on a whole lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of bias, a whole lot of things that go into creating these large language models. And I, for one, I just don't trust these things
Well,
to do
that's
what we're
the
asking them
thing.
to
It's
do.
just like number one, they say it's the first draft, or it's only going to get used as a template, and all that other bullshit. Like, human nature is to take the path of least resistance, and if you have a tool or a mechanism to do something for you, you're going to take it. That's just what humans do. So at some point, if it hasn't happened already, people will just be turning in these AI generated police reports without checking them, without going back over them, without using it as the first draft and then going back in and correcting stuff. And no, that didn't really happen. Let me change this. Let me judge this and massage that. They're not going to do it, especially, police officers are already crunched for time and stressed and overworked and everything else. You give them this tool that you telling them can do the work for them, they're going to let the tool do the work for them. So I don't believe that at all. That this is just for the first draft of the thing, and then they can go back in and do whatever they need to do. I don't believe anybody's going back in to do anything after this draft has been created. And then to your point, the second thing to your point, AI is just not good. And especially when we're talking about policing, it's being trained on these models that are biased and may just absorb that bias into the report when they didn't even need to, because they just feel like if you're looking for patterns and you're matching and everything, you might say, well, it's just more likely for this person to be a criminal and them to have done this thing that they're being accused of, when that's not actually the case. So yeah, this is just bad all the way around. And um, I don't think that, I would hope that states and police departments and things like that will actually decide against doing these types of things. It's interesting. I did a segment for Merit Street this morning, actually, when I was still at home. And right before me, and this is sort of a tangent, but kind of not really. Right before me, the person on right before me was a doctor, a physician, who was also talking about how they've started using AI in diagnosing and that whole thing, and just the idea that in underserved communities, that might be all you get. People that have benefits and insurance and can afford doctors, but for somebody who can't, you may only get to talk to a chat bot that's going to ask you a list of your symptoms, and you're going to type it back and forth, and they're going to try and the AI is going to try to diagnose you when it may frequently get it wrong, and now you're costing people a lot. Either way, in this situation or in that situation, people's lives are at stake. It just people's livelihoods, their freedom. If a judge decides that this AI is true and correct and infallible, and the computer can't lie and the computer can't mess up, and now you going to jail for something you may or may not have done. So yeah, I just we really need to figure out how to pump our brakes on AI, period,
The
across the board.
ACLU, the ACLU, they noted 4 issues with the use of AI, and I'm just going to read a couple of them here. AI is, quote, quirky and unreliable and prone to making up facts, and it is also
At
biased.
best.
We know those things are true. We go back to our very first episode of the Tech Jod. We were talking about bias in facial recognition. Number 2, an officer's memories of an incident should be memorialized before they are contaminated by an AI's body camera based storytelling. This is where I really say this could be problematic, because it's not just, I wouldn't have a problem if the police officers are using a transcription of what was said, of, here's what the camera in the microphone picked up, and you're able to go back and listen to the conversations that were happening, and then you're generating your report, and it may be jogging things in your memory because that's just a recording. You're not changing it. But where I have the issue is that when you're actually not using, you're not just using a transcription, you're using artificial intelligence to take that transcription and to then use it as it is used on other large language systems to ultimately pattern match and say, well, based off of these things, this is probably how you should word this. And based off of these things, this is probably how you should word that. And based off of these things, this is probably what you should say. And based off of this is probably how you felt. And now we're not going off of, what the officer memorialized in their own notes. And, I remember a time when police officers usually have a notepad. They would actually write down stuff that was going on as they were, investigating, various, crimes and activities that happened. But we're not doing that. We're saying that here is based off the information that was fed into this computer. This is what we think this particular police report should read like. And that's what I have the biggest issue with, because that could be so biased against people.
Right. And even if you're just doing an AI summary, you know what I mean? And those are pretty good because, the ones that Zoom will give you after you've had a Zoom meeting are fairly accurate. But even if you're doing that, the potential for error is too high and too great, and the consequence of that error is too high and too great in these types of instances. Now, if I'm on a Zoom with my drifter sisters and they get the summary wrong, like, nobody goes to jail, nobody dies, it's not the end of the world. But for things like, for applications like law enforcement, medicine, things like that, the implications and the consequences are just too high to be relying on artificial intelligence to do anything really. You know what I mean? It just, like, I would, like I said, I wouldn't even trust it to summarize something. Just take what you heard on the recording and summarize that for me. Like, I wouldn't even trust that in this instance, because I just feel like it would, the potential for getting it wrong is just too great. And like I said, you do that some time after the incident's already happened. Officer's memory is fuzzy. He's just gonna he or she or they are just gonna rely on whatever this AI said happened, and that might not be what happened at all. So it just, the stakes are just way too high in this case for them to be using this at all, honestly.
Richard Pryor said it best: "Who you gonna believe, me or your lying eyes?" And I kind of feel like this here, because it's like, well, here is what you thought, here's what you wrote down in your notepad, but you now have this thing that can, oh, well, here's what we interpreted happened, not the officer, what the AI interpreted happened. And if it's now saying, well, to the officer, well, this is what we think happened to somebody who, memories are fuzzy anyway. So if you're giving the officer an interpretation of what the AI thinks happened, that very well could become what the officer believes actually happened, not based off of what they memorialized, but based off of what the AI told them. You could tell me till you're blue in the face that it won't do that, but until this stuff is batting 1,000, I just don't trust it, because you can always go and, when you go to court, you can, a lawyer can, cross-examine a police officer based off of what they're saying. But how do I cross-examine an artificial intelligence? How does that happen?
And that's the problem. And that alone should be enough cause for people to pump the brakes on this, because you can't question it. You can't, and it's like, how are you going to, we're going to start to see, hopefully, if in fact we get to a point where this type of information gets admitted in court and is found to be incorrect, hopefully enough cases will be thrown out and dismissed, and we'll see enough mistrials for people to really take a step back from this, because that's what's going to need to happen. You're not going to be able to bring these things to a court of law and have them be incorrect. Like, you're just not going to be able to do that. I mean, I know what is more likely to happen is that they'll be incorrect and nobody will know, and that incorrect information is going to send people to jail. But hopefully we will see enough, high profile cases maybe, or something, to say, okay, we need to stop doing this and we need to stop using this because it's getting it wrong.
Yeah, I'm hoping it just doesn't get to that point, because right now it looks like this is only being used on low misdemeanors. Even still, misdemeanor, I mean, that,
Even
they
still,
do count.
no,
They do count.
it
You end up
should,
paying
right,
fines for those jokers.
right.
So like I said, I am for artificial intelligence. I'm not anti AI. I understand
In
how
the
these
right
systems are
instances.
created and how they can be used. And, it's one of those things to where, like, until you can show me with data that this gets it right all the time, I just don't trust that it gets it right all the time.
No, I don't trust that
So
it gets right even half the time, honestly. Like, as Ray said, AI diagnostics may also catch some diagnostic details that are being missed by some doctors, quality of data, and just auditing of the data. And that's the whole point. Like, the data is flawed right now, and so we can't be in such a rush
mhm.
to, employ these systems, or deploy these systems when there's just way too much margin of error involved.
When AI can absolutely be helpful and the things that are doing are only helping, I'm for it. But when it can take someone's liberty away, I'm not, because just bringing up, there's a story, I believe it came out last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, about a study where they were using artificial intelligence to help diagnose certain types of cancer in women. And there were some anecdotal things in it, because ultimately the women who are higher risk for cancer were more prone to actually pay for the AI assistance. So you did have some confirmation bias in there, but even after confirmation bias, it determined, I want to say it's like 21-22% of women who used it had better diagnoses, because it's, basically it's able to take all this data that doctors are pumping in, and it's just catching, it's catching it's catching the symptoms across across a big swath of data, unlike what an individual doctor is able to do. I'm for
Right.
that, because
Right.
the doctors are still doing their job. It's just that you've added this additional thing, and you can then go look at the data and say, oh, wow, we caught 22% more when we do this. That is a good thing. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not against AI stuff, but I am when it's like, well, I couldn't talk to a doctor. I couldn't tell a doctor what I was feeling. I couldn't tell a doctor, what my symptoms were. All I could do is type this into an AI that's based off of other people having typed stuff into an AI. And then you have to
Right.
worry about things like, oh, well, wait a minute. If it's a black woman, we're going to put a multiplier on it because her pain doesn't exist at the same level that a white woman's pain does. And people are
Right.
saying, oh, wow, we would never do that. It's like, oh, no, we actually do that right now. That still happens in this country. So it's like, yeah, it's like, is the AI itself biased? No, but the people who program them are. The people who are entering the data that is trained on is biased. Bias is going to always exist. So until you can counteract all of that, I kind of stray away from things that you could potentially take somebody's liberty away by something that a computer generated, as compared to something that a flawed human generated. But I can at least go and cross-examine the human to find out why they were thinking what they were thinking.
Right.
So, Steph, I don't know if you have been paying attention to the news over the last couple of months, but last month we had this big election.
I've been trying not to.
Yeah, we elected a new, there's going to be a new president. There was going to be a new president regardless, but that new president is named Donald Trump, that will be, taking over the administration,
Don't remind
the
me.
executive branch of government, come January 20th next year. What is really interesting is that tech company after tech company after tech company after tech company is donating. It seems like they're all doing $1 million to the inaugural, campaign fund. So when I looked this up, I was like, I felt some kind of way, but then I had to really think about it. Are the tech companies doing this because in some cases they probably do rock with who's in the office, but I would imagine that there are some tech companies who don't rock with who is now going to be in the office. But are they all doing this $1 million donation because it's just their kiss the ring moment? You can make it more difficult for me to do business in this country if I don't at least if I don't at least bend the knee a little bit. So what is happening here? Because I'm hearing some people say, "Oh, I'm never going to use this company again." It's like there's a whole lot of companies you will never be
Well,
using if you find out that
right.
they've donated to this.
You literally would have to like start making your own clothes or churning your own butter or some shit
Really?
if you decided that. Yeah, I definitely think that's the case at this point. People are like, this is the dude, so let me go. And they know how and the bad part is they know how he is,
Mm-hmm.
and knows that this is what is expected of them. In this instance, Kamala Harris, I can guarantee you, Kamala Harris they wouldn't be doing this because she wouldn't expect it, and
Well, you
because
know what? I would disagree with that. I think that if she would have won, they would have still been like. I think that they still would have done the donations to her
well,
inaugural
yeah,
campaign because
they,
they basically play both sides of the field, regardless
no,
of
I'm
what. Not
not
every
saying they
company, but
wouldn't
many
have.
companies.
I'm not saying they wouldn't have necessarily done it, but I think this was probably something that was understood to be required. You know what
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
Because of the way that Donald Trump is, and because he, thinks he's some sort of, mob boss or whatever. Like, I think they knew that this was the expected outcome of this election, was that they were going to have to do this. I agree that they probably would have, hedged their bets and just whoever's in there, we just gonna give them some money and see if that can get us, some favor on the back end. But I don't know that it would have been something that would have been expected from the Harris campaign, had she
Hmm.
won.
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree.
think, yeah, I think they know that this is what they got to do, which is crazy because I'm like, have y'all seen Donald Trump in the past? Like, y'all know how this man operates, right? Like, he has zero loyalty to anybody. He can flip flop and change his mind on a whim. Like this. I don't know that this is gonna get them what they think it's gonna get them. I think they are lining up to just like you said, hedge their bets. If this is what it got to be, let me go ahead on, and $1 million is nothing to any of these people. So it's not like, if number one, it's a tax write off, and number two, it ain't no whole bunch of money to any of them. So it's not like
Not
they're,
not to these
yeah,
companies. No,
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 no. So it's
not
not
to
like
these
they're
big companies.
giving up, some significant, making the significant sacrifice for this thing. But I just don't think it's gonna get them what they think it's gonna get them. Um, I think he's still gonna have a chip on his shoulder for all of the people he think wronged him, and Twitter banned him for a minute, Facebook banned him for a minute. Like, he's not going to forget that, and $1 million is not going to make that go away, and make his hurt feelings go away. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I do worry about um some of the more radical people, like the Peter Thiels and the Mark Benioffs of the world, that actually want to, and Elon Musk, really, that actually want to, see America and the world really go back to some other reality, some alternate reality where, white men just sit at the top of the heap no matter
Mhm.
what. But yeah, the rest of them, I think, are going to be very disappointed with the fact that they did this and it didn't get them anything. Because I just don't think this is not going to be the flex they think it is.
And see, where I would it's not a disagreement. Where I differ in my thinking is that I don't think that many of these companies did it thinking they were going to get anything. I think they did it hoping that he won't take perceived, he won't perceive that we are aggrieving him if we don't give him money. So it's like, this is just the minimum to have nothing happen. We don't, I don't
Right.
want this man saying
Right.
anything about our company. If I could give $1 million and,
To,
to his inaugural
to leave
fund,
us
and
alone
they just
and
leave us
forget all
alone,
about us.
that is $1 million well worth it. I think that that's where most of these companies probably are. I don't think that they are hoping that they are going to
That
get
could be.
anything from $1 million, because, some people are saying that when you look at Elon Musk and buying Twitter, that it's a bargain. If you basically can buy this company, you can change it, and you can basically make sentiment to the way that you want it, and you can use that to get into where the president of the incumbent president of the United States is putting you in charge of of new departments with
Right.
and stuff like that.
Made up some
And
shit for you.
literally making Doge, the Department of Governance and Efficiency, has
Yeah.
two people running it. Make that make sense. But the fact that you can do that you can, it's like, I got all the money in the world. What do I want? I want to buy an election. I want
Yeah.
to. I want a
That kind
president
of
in my
power.
back pocket.
Yeah.
And things that we know about Donald Trump. If you flatter him, if you tell him that he is as great as he thinks he is, and
And if you give him enough
you
money,
have a lot of
he's
money,
available for the highest bidder.
he's
He is
available
for
for the
sale.
highest bidder.
He is
That's
for
what I
sale for the
believe.
highest bidder.
So it seems like that may not be a bad deal from my standpoint, because it's like, oh, I want to get this contract to continue to put these rockets in space. I want to get this contract to continue to put these satellites up. I want to build a moon base. I want to go to Mars.
Right.
All these things that if you have if you have a president, if you basically have an executive branch of office that is really filling you, and they put some stuff in place, even potentially get some laws passed that are going to not adversely, but advantageously affect your, gigantic companies that you run, then all
Well,
the things you had to do to get
it's
to that point, it might be a
it's
good bet.
no, and it's that plus all the crypto shit that's about to go down. You got all these companies holding all this crypto. You got these people creating these coins every other day. Donald Trump at first had said, "Oh, this was a scam and it's not real." But now, as soon as some people put some money, in his pockets, or some Bitcoin in his pocket, or some Ripple in his pocket, now he's all for it. So you have that contingency. It's such a shame that, and I guess, I'm not naive enough to believe that this kind of thing didn't go on before he took office, or before he ever ran for office, or became president the first time, or any time. But it just it's very unseemly to just see it out in the open like this. And it's just like, if you're gonna be shady, like, at least be shady behind this. Like, at least have some honor to your, like, thievery. I guess there's no honor among thieves, but I don't know. I don't know. It's so disgustingly crass and obvious. And I think about, like, the article you posted about this. I didn't realize Mark Benioff, I think, no, or Benioff or Andreessen, one of the people that is up Trump's ass right now, also owns Time magazine. And I think about, like, how he got on the cover again, and, like, or seriously, and now it makes sense. You know what I mean? The same way I still feel like, even though that TikTok ban is coming around, and coming up pretty quickly, I still feel like we're not going to see that happen, because of that guy that owns part of ByteDance, that donated all that money to him. And like I said, I know it happens. It happens everywhere. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and all that other shit. But it just sucks to have to see it so open, and so egregiously being done right now. And I don't know. I'm just disgusted by it all.
I was watching a Karen Hunter video either today or yesterday, and one of the things they
Shout out to
had
Karen
in the
Hunter. That's my people's.
one of the things she had she had these paintings, and it was like black women sitting on top of a high rise building and looking at the city just burn,
Oh
and they were
yeah,
sitting
I've
there
seen that.
not
Yeah.
bothered by it, and I was like,
Listen, sipping
uh,
my tea.
this is this is this is what the country said it wanted. The country is going to get what it wanted. And I'm not wishing. I'm going to be honest with you. I hope that the incoming administration does well, because if they don't do well, that means America does bad, and I'm not looking for that. I don't
Right.
want see
Of course.
I don't want you to go in there and fail, and then a whole lot of people that I care about are in way worse situations than they are right now because of how bad things go. Some people are. I want just anarchy and tyranny just to happen. I'm not there, so I do
No.
want him to succeed and not make the country worse than it is. But if I was a betting person, I think that some people have voted for some things. Like, I was watching something the other day where they were talking about how they need to get Obamacare out so that they can get more money into the ACA. And I'm like,
Right.
nobody told you that Obamacare is the ACA. They just called it Obamacare, trying to demonize it so that it potentially wouldn't pass. And when it did, he never wanted to refer to it as Obamacare any longer because it was the law of the land. And he had that, had to, even though he tried to, in Trump's first term, tried to, get that thing out of there multiple times, it never happened. But it's like, that didn't go away. They are still trying to get rid of it. And it's like, you have people who are actually on it, or using it and like it, who are saying, yeah, well, I want to get rid of this Obamacare so my ACA benefits get better. And it's like, oh, you poor child.
I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this.
So,
It is. It's giving this whole thing though is giving very much the Empire Strikes Back. I mean, like the whole feeling of this to me, that's just what I've had in my spirit this whole time, and it just sucks because it's I think we will eventually get back to a place we need to be as a country, but it you got to get through the I mean, Luke got his hand cut off when the Empire struck back before he could get back to returning the Jedi. So it just like I said, it just really is unfortunate, and the next 4 years is going to be something else. Terrance is in the chat. I don't know if he's waiting backstage to get in, but he in the chat talking about what we talk about.
let
Brother
me go
Tech
look and see.
is in the chat.
No, he's not in the he's not in the green room or anything like that. So so yeah, brother Tech, you have to let us know when we get into this after party what you got what you got going on, if you could talk about it at all. Before we do get to our after party though, the last story, and you kind of mentioned it, the precursor of it. Want to just talk quickly about TikTok. And the only reason I stuck this in there is because right now you got a whole lot of creators that are collectively freaking out because you now have a second appeals court that has said, nah, we let this law go through. So unless the Supreme Court steps in before the 19th of next month, this potentially can get shut down. Or I guess that would still give ByteDance some time to do some things. I just don't know that they can get that done in just over a month at this point. So
Yeah.
it is like I said,
But
I was fairly confident before. I still kind of think that it's not going to go
I
away, but it's like,
I
man,
feel
I don't know
I
now.
but I feel like though in America anyway, I wouldn't have thought that you could or should, maybe is the better word, but I didn't think that you could um enact a law while it's still being challenged. You know what I mean? Like that's their whole, I think, argument is that we're still challenging this is still working its way through the court, so you shouldn't be able to just go and say yes, this is now law,
That's just it. It's not working its way through the court. They said no. We're still good with this law being just like it is. You could take this
well,
to the
but they
Supreme Court
still
if you want.
but that's what they're trying to do, and that's my point. It's
We'll
like
see.
they're
We will see if the Supreme Court even wants to hear it. Because
well,
sometimes the Supreme Court will say,
they punted on everything like
yeah,
lately. I'm like, why are y'all even here? Honestly, like y'all literally don't do anything at this point. They've punted every
oh,
major
they doing stuff.
decision.
Yeah, it's one of those
Maybe
things
stuff that
where
ain't gonna help none of us.
or hurt like 6'3". Yeah, you can, marriage is absolutely a fundamental right, but if you marry somebody who's not from here, they don't necessarily get to live with you.
Right.
That is what the court is now saying. And I'm like, so what you're saying is that that Donald Trump and his wife Melania and her entire family, according to the Supreme Court, are here. Oh, but that's, we're not going to go back in the past. This is just going forward stuff.
Right,
Oh, okay, I
right,
got that. That
right.
makes sense.
Stop bringing
So
up old stuff.
yes, stop bringing up old stuff. So, like I said, I just wanted to, just throw that out there because, folks are saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? And it's like, you know what? When lawmakers make laws, believe that the laws actually are going to do what the laws say they're going to do. If you didn't, at this point, I don't know what you can do. You got a month to try to build an email list, try to get
Well,
people
I
over to
think
Instagram, whatever.
I think one of the things that is happening is that people are starting to try to migrate to Lemon 8. It's lemon like the fruit, LEMON, and the number 8. It's literally the same exact thing, and owned by the same company. And I don't know if they think that's going to be the workaround, and try to be slick and sort of backdoor people into what is ostensibly just another TikTok platform, or like a shadow TikTok platform. But I know I've already been getting um, DMs on TikTok for people to, people that want me to connect with them on Lemonade and follow them on Lemonade. And what they're allowing you to do is just basically port your entire account over to that platform. So it'll be like, if you go on Lemonade, it'll be your same TikTok username, all your bio information will be there. I think any of the people that follow you on TikTok that are on Lemonade will all automatically be following you there. So I believe that is what they're trying to, encourage. And I don't think ByteDance in particular is trying to do that. I think people on TikTok are looking at this as their alternative if TikTok in fact gets shut down. But yeah, that's what everybody's trying to do is get over to Lemonade.
When we decide to do a show that is not about the tech news and we're just going to talk about being a creator and owning your own stuff, do you know how much it saddens me to hear somebody say, hey, I'm worried about you not being able to follow me on TikTok anymore, so go to this other social media platform that I don't own and follow me there? That just
Yeah, it's
that just
crazy.
that just
Yeah,
that's just crazy to me.
ByteDance
It's like you
also.
need to own your stuff.
You need to own yourself. Yeah, Saray asks is Lemonade a Bite Shuffle Cup? Yes, ByteDance owns Lemonade as well. I remember Lemonade too because I like about a year or two ago, maybe even three. Um, I had to put that because there's when I talk to parents about social media, I always give them like kind of a social media rundown, and we talk about whatever the popular apps are for young people and what the risks might be. And I remember having Lemonade on that list at the time. I forget why I had it on there and like what I was saying the risk and the danger was to kids, but it was definitely on the list at one point. And it may have just been because and this might have been back when TikTok was called Musically, and there was something, Musically was getting a lot of rap for some of the bullying and stuff that was going on there. And I think I was like, well, Lemonade is basically the same thing because it's the same company, same type of interface or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, that may be the workaround for some people because Lemonade is not on anybody's radar as far as being owned by this company. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's it.
I will parrot friend of the show Lamar Wilson, because he and I were talking about this I think last week, maybe the week before last. I just asked him like, hey man, you worried about TikTok? And he's like, I ain't worried about it. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be good because I am literally everywhere else. It's like
Right.
I made it a point to where I don't like my money getting messed up like that. It's like if I'm only on one thing and that one thing gets taken down, then all my money is gone. It's like if I'm on
Right.
everything and one thing gets taken down, then just a little bit of my money is gone while I'm figuring out how to make that money back on the other things that I'm already on.
Right.
So he was saying that that's what folks should have done. And if you are, to say I'm going to start doing it now, you can't just go build a platform or build your platform up on one of these other services overnight and think that you had 250,000 people following you on TikTok, that you're just going to immediately have 250,000 following you on this new platform. It just doesn't work like that. So
No.
I hope people are going to be okay. I saw something, I think today or yesterday, that more people in the United States, we spend more money on TikTok Shop than on Shein and Temu combined.
Dude, and that's the other reason why I don't I just I feel like the catastrophe to the American economy, not even, like, because, I think there was a point in time when it was a lot of, smaller creators, a lot of small business, people just getting they hustle on with their little, journal or whatever, selling on TikTok Shop. It is major brands and retailers on TikTok Shop now. So, like, the idea that you would be willing to cripple this level of commerce, kind of just out of spite, honestly, because, yeah, it's a Chinese company, but I don't think the risk of whatever it is they have listed as their reasons for wanting to get rid of China as the owner of this company. I don't believe those outweigh. Is the algorithm getting manipulated? Sure. So is the algorithm on Instagram. So is the algorithm on Facebook.
Mm,
All the algorithms are getting manipulated. You know what I mean? Like, does somebody else have access to our data? Of course. So do they have access to our data on Facebook. So, you know what I mean? So it's just like the rationale for why you want to force the sale of TikTok and or ban it altogether does not jive for me. Like, I
yeah.
just don't see that you have, that much of a leg to stand on when you look at what all of the other companies are doing at the same time,
And
doing the
see, and
exact
that's
same thing.
that's where it's different. They're not looking at what all the other companies are doing at the exact same time. That's the thing, the
And that
fundamental thing that I think you have to think about. They're not looking at Facebook, and they're not looking at X, and they're not
and that's
looking
the
at
problem.
all of these American companies. They're not looking at that. They're looking at, this is what China is doing, and we have a problem with China. And I just don't know. The current administration is said that they would sign the bill if it got passed in a bipartisan way, and it did. Trump at one point was saying that he thought it should have been banned. I just don't. I can't call at this point.
I
It's like it's a
I
coin flip
I
to me
I
what's going to
don't
happen
I,
at this
I
point.
don't know. I just don't know that you can eliminate such a major um point of commerce unilaterally. Like you're literally going to flip a light switch and millions of people are going to lose their livelihoods.
You're
Like,
you're saying that as though you expect the administration to be competent in the decisions that they make and the way that they distribute those decisions.
yeah, I don't see how you do, and I don't
Yeah,
see how the major brands. I mean, I just bought a pair of Crocs off a TikTok shop like the other day,
yeah.
and, like, like I said, major retailers, major brands. Like, I don't see how they haven't already just completely bombarded with lobbying to not get this done. But I think between that and, again, the fact that, Donald Trump is in TikTok's back pocket at this point, or ByteDance's back pocket at this point, due to his association with
Mhm.
the guy, old boy, that donated the money. Like, it it's going to be interesting how they get around that January 19th thing, because I think they, obviously he needs to be in office. That's not going to happen until the 20th, but I think on the 21st we're going to see if they can hold out just those couple of days, I think we're going to see a whole different attitude towards
It
that
get turned off
platform.
and they get turned right
But
back on right fast.
you're
We'll
right.
we'll see.
Seriously. Oops. Oops. Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Like
Yeah.
seriously, honestly, I just don't see how you do it. I don't see it. That would honestly be cruel. It would be actually quite cruel to just, and we can sit here, you and I can sit here and talk all day about diversifying your platform and having multiple streams and all this other stuff. But some of these people are 20-year-old creators. They haven't thought about that.
Mm-mm.
They just found a place where their community appreciated them, that allowed them to make a little bit of money, put a little bit of money in their pockets, and they just riding with that shit. You know what
Will
I'm saying?
argue
And
with
and
you
and
until you're blue in the face, telling you the email is dead and that nobody uses it anymore. And it's like, all right, keep thinking that till
but
you get a little older.
but
Want to make up.
but you can't, like I said, some of these people are still children, for lack of a better word. So
Mm-hmm.
to think that they are going to be fully fleshed out with these platforms that span across websites and email lists and substacks and whatever else, is just not realistic. When they just went viral 2 days ago, and
Right.
now they have
So
this following that they're able to monetize and feed their families and go to school and just, I like it, it would really really be cruel to flip that switch on the 19th and deny millions of people their livelihoods. It would be
we're gonna
really
see.
really
Like so,
cruel.
we're gonna find out in a little over a month. So we will know very very soon. And the Supreme Court could very well step in and say no, we're going to take the case up, and they they take the case up, but we're not going to do it until June of next year, something like that. So we're going to allow you to run until we actually hear the case and they get something figured out. So it is very possible. That's kind of what I would expect to happen. But like there's a lot of folks out here sweating right now. But Tech Life Steph,
Yeah.
we about to go ahead and get up out of here. Before we do, though, I want to let everybody know that another way that you can support the show, if you choose to do so, is by heading over to thetechjohn.com/shop, where we have our own swag store over there where you can get hoodies and sweatshirts and t-shirts and mugs and mice pad and aprons and hats,
They make
all
great
that kind of good
gifts.
stuff. All that kind of good stuff.
I don't think you would get them for Christmas, like in
I don't
time
think
for
so yet.
Christmas right now. But they
Yes,
make great gifts anyway, so just get somebody something and give it to them in January.
absolutely. So, if you like to get any of that stuff with our mask on it, head over to thetechjohn.com/shop, and we got all kind of stuff over there. So, with that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or hit me up at stephaniehumphrey.com. I do have a newsletter, so please sign up for it, and get some good tech content every month.
And I am at Rob Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech John on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler. Until we meet again in not a week's time, because next week is the week before Christmas. We will be off next week. We're not doing a live show, so we'll figure something out. We'll do a replay or something like that. We will be back the last Monday of December is the next time we'll do a live show. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Just want to let everybody know, no live show next week. So for everyone who is listening, watching, have a very, very, very Merry Christmas. And we will talk to you right before the new year.
Happy holidays. Hey.